Oh, hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 15. We're just going to get Megan on here and then we'll get started. What's up, little mementos? How you doing? There she is. Okay. Get... What's up, not for sale? Hey, Jay. I'm not too bad, man. Just enjoying the week. Hi.
Hey Merlin.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm not too bad, thanks. It's great to see you.
You too. That was surprisingly easy. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna know how to do this.
That's what I've been really loving about Instagram Live, honestly, is like I never thought I would get into like podcasting or things like that because just like all of the moving parts just seemed like way too much. And
Yeah.
then the live thing sort of happened, and it's so easy because like you just open it and then someone joins you and then you
Yeah.
talk and then people interact with you. It's kind of wild. Yeah. How have you been settling into San Francisco?
Pretty good. Yeah. We had basically I don't know how long have we been here. Also, I apologize for the dogs in the background. They will calm down. I'm at my partner's parents' house and
Okay.
I like to greet every person that's outside. But yeah, San Francisco has been good. We've been here since beginning of August, I guess, and it's been pretty much the nicest weather that I've ever seen in San Francisco since we moved. It's like just started getting cold. So it's been really nice. We've been like swimming all the time and surfing and taking lots of photos and stuff. So it's been good. It's weird to move to a new city in the pandemic, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, just because there's less people around. But I don't know. What's nice about it is everyone is taking it super, super seriously in San Francisco. So like you do not see people without masks and stuff. So that makes it a little easier to
That's
wander
definitely
around.
nice. Matthew says Megan is my favorite. She's the best. Lots
He's the
of
best too. I met,
yes,
I met Matt through Instagram. I don't even know how many years ago, probably like six, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, like through the Nikonos project.
okay.
Um, and at that point, I was like super good at waking up really early in the morning. And I was living in San Diego. He lives in Orange County, and I used to drive up at like 4:30 in the morning and go and shoot the wedge wave in Newport Beach with him. I don't know how I don't think I could do that anymore. My brain is like, no, you need sleep. Stay in the warm.
Yeah, the early mornings get harder after a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's cool that you've been settling well into San Francisco. It's a beautiful city. It was the last place I got to see before the world ended.
Oh, there you go.
I was there for a Polaroid convention, like the weekend it was shutting down. It
Okay.
was really surreal and weird. And JP said that he got to take portraits
Yeah.
of you and your partner. That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it was super cool. It's like such a funny thing, like meeting up with anyone right now. But yeah, he was so nice, and we got to like chat about um, all of his little adventures around the city, and yeah, he is a super interesting guy. And it was so funny. He like showed
Oh,
up with
right there.
the with the Pentax 67, or he I think had a 67. He had a much newer one than the one that I have. But we were talking about that, like lugging. He has like the big wooden handle, which you really need if you're going to be shooting that thing handheld.
Yeah, you definitely need it. Those things are beefy as heck.
Yeah, I don't take mine around as much anymore. I used to like I brought mine on a backpacking trip in the Sierras a few years ago, which was interesting.
That's a big camera to take backpacking.
Some really beautiful photos, but I don't know if I would ever do that again.
Yeah, I'm kind of like so I'm doing a cross country drive on Tuesday. My best friend is moving to Vancouver,
Hmm.
and she has a 150-pound dog that is very difficult to ship. So
Yep.
like I have to drive. And it's wintertime in the rest of Canada right now. Toronto is still unseasonably warm, which is weird.
Okay.
So I'm gonna drive with her because she was afraid of going by herself. But I'm debating, it's like, what cameras am I gonna bring? Because I have to
Yeah.
be able to fly home, and I don't want to like bring a bunch of crap with me. So it's like, what am I gonna shoot on my pandemic road trip? And it's also the weirdest time to pick to go on a road trip right now because like every province is just going into a lockdown right now. So
Okay.
it's BC just locked down on Monday. Um, Manitoba is locked down. They're talking about, Alberta locking down. We're in a pending like lockdown in Ontario. It's a
Yeah.
very weird time to be like, let's go for a road trip, and I'm gonna
I
fly home.
mean, if you're gonna travel, I think that's probably the best way to to do it right now, right? I mean, I guess I mean, from what I've heard, that people saying like flying actually feels pretty safe too, but I haven't
Yeah.
flown.
So I've talked to a few people that have flown, and they said they like one guy specifically. He's like, I felt safer in the airports and on the plane than I did walking on Queen Street in Toronto.
Okay.
Which I was like, okay, yeah, that's fair. It's kind of a little crazy down there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna bring a bunch of Polaroid. I've decided though, so I'm gonna shoot like pandemic Polaroids across the country. And Jeff, I wish I could stop in Kimberly and have a beer. Maybe we'll see. He he's my old English teacher from high school.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you have the route that you guys are taking all mapped out and stuff?
So mostly, yeah. And actually, Johnny asked that, curious if the lockdowns and some. So we are allowed to stop for food and washrooms and stuff, but you're not really allowed to like
Yeah.
stay. So like Manitoba has like if you stay there, you have to quarantine for 14 days. So we can't stay for like, overnight there. So
Yeah.
we're gonna take our time through Ontario because Ontario is like a massive province. So I think we're
Yeah.
gonna stop in like Thunder Bay and Sault Ste. Marie and then Kenora, which is like the last city right before it goes into Manitoba. And then
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna try and beeline it through Manitoba to Regina in a day, which should be okay. I think it's like 9 hours of driving.
Mm.
Um, and then we're gonna stop in Alberta for a bit. She grew up there and wants to spend some time with her fam. So,
Nice.
um, and I haven't been home to BC because I'm originally from BC.
Yeah.
I haven't been home in like almost a year. So I'm like, cool, I'll be able to visit people. But then I'm like, oh yeah, pandemic. Can't we visit people?
Yeah, I mean, is it going to be warm enough to do like outside visits with people?
Vancouver will still be warm. So like it should be okay there, but like, it's looking at all the snow, it's kind of like it's kind of wild. I wish we were taking two vehicles because walkie-talkies would be rad, Johnny. But we're just gonna be in her tiny Subaru Forester with a
Nice.
big massive dog, and I did get like a roof topper for her, so it'll be interesting. Like, because we're gonna take our time, so it'll be like probably a week to go across. Um,
That's pretty fast though. That's a lot of
that's actually gonna be
my
the longest amount that it's taken me to do it because I've gone west to east twice. This will be my first time going east to west.
Okay.
And the one time when I moved to Toronto, it was 3.5 days from BC to Toronto.
Okay.
Then the other time I took like I think it was like 4 or 5 days.
All
Uh,
right.
I just wish it was like warmer and not a pandemic because it'd be more interesting. But
But it'll probably be interesting to move through like towns and stuff and see what it what it looks like.
I'm really curious to see what it looks like because like talking with some of my friends out west, they're like it's almost like there's no pandemic. They're like, oh yeah, restaurants are open and like what are masks? And it's like what?
Yeah.
Like no wonder your numbers are going up, guys.
Yeah.
But
I, like here, everyone's like things are I mean here, San Francisco has maintained pretty good numbers, so things are we never opened all the way up, but we have stayed at the same level for so long. And then I look at like the rest of the world and it's like, oh my God, like you're still going to the gym and your numbers are the higher than they were in March. Like what's
Yeah,
happening?
it's so crazy. There's a part of me though that regrets when Toronto was like super shut down,
Yeah.
not going on the subway because I saw some people taking like these really like creepy empty subway shots, and I was like, damn, like I missed out on that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, there were
but
some of them from I didn't see any from we have BART here. I don't know
yeah,
if you were here. I didn't see any of those because people I don't know, people were still on, but I remember seeing some in New York, like right in the springtime of like the subways, yeah, like fully empty. Even the tube in England too,
yeah,
which pretty you can get some pretty interesting thing. I mean, even like I don't know. There's some cool pictures I think of just like aerial stuff of LA and like when everything really shut down and like your normal photos of the LA like cityscape with all of the highways and stuff with all like obviously like just basically miles of red lights, brakes and no one moving and then these empty freeways in the spring, which is probably going to be the only time that it's like that ever.
my favorite stories were the coyotes coming back into San Francisco during lockdown. Like wildlife was like nature's like, oh, we could come back. Like
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of wild.
Yeah, they Jack's parents saw a coyote like in the middle of San Francisco. They came over to swim with us maybe a couple of weeks ago and they were heading back and yeah, right in the middle of like a main intersection in San Francisco. In LA, my mom lives in like the foothills in Northeast LA and they're I mean pretty kind of close to some wildlife anyways because she's like right up against the mountains. But she sees like bobcats now on a kind of weekly basis. She was down on a walk in the neighborhood and basically turned a corner and there was a mama bear and two cubs. And
What?
like, yeah. So I mean, just that's the cool part about it is you're getting to see kind of what nature looks like without all of us ruining things all the time.
Right? Yeah, well, I know you're very passionate about like the environment and stuff. And I was also curious too. So like it was cool to meet you last year at the Film Paideia and see your
Was
presentation.
that only last year, Merlin?
Yeah, it was 2019, wasn't it? Yeah,
Seems like 5 years.
I know. Well, I was just talking about this with a friend where we were like, when was Biden vice president? Was it like 8 years ago, 10
Uh,
years? And there's like, oh, it's only 4 years. It's like time is just, then COVID's really like messed it all up.
yeah.
But yeah, your presentation was fascinating. Your photos are beautiful. And I was curious, like, what got you into shooting film, and then like what made you decide to get into the Nikonos stuff?
So my background a long time ago, like I guess I started school and like in college in 2011. So was down. I moved from LA down to San Diego and was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And UC San Diego has a really amazing marine biology program, and I had always kind of been just someone who liked water and the ocean and stuff like that. So I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll start taking these classes. And I ended up really liking them. And then while I was in school, I did kind of some lab work and kind of got to see what it was like to be a marine biologist, which for most people, you're doing lab work 90% of the time, and then maybe you get to go out in the field. So I kind of realized I'm like, I really like what I'm learning about. I love the ocean. A lot of classes we would get to go and do tide pooling and stuff like that, which was great. And the other kind of part of it is I guess it kind of just got me getting in the water more so and just getting interested in kind of what was in that area. La Jolla, which is where UC San Diego is like this hub of wildlife. And you have like people like coming from all over to kind of see what is there, and it's really well protected. So I basically started going in there, and I think my first like camera that I had was my phone, and I used to get these dive housings. dive housings. I drowned like probably 6 iPhones because I would be like, oh, let's see how deep I can take this. And but I mean, it was kind of cool to see. I was like, all right, this is this whole new world, which I've kind of seen swimming around and getting to capture it. So around that time, I had like kind of some digital cameras. I had done this crazy road trip from basically San Diego all the way up to Vancouver, and taken some like kind of just gotten into just taking some photos, learned how to use a camera. So kind of that, and then starting the water thing, I was like, okay, I want to combine these things, like not just use my phone. I got a digital housing, which if you've ever seen an underwater digital housing, they're ridiculous. It's like,
Yeah.
like swimming with a shoebox that's 18 pounds. And you have to have full controls. You have like different knobs on all different parts of the housing. And so it kind of took my stuff like out of it. Like I really enjoyed swimming with my phone because it was something small and I could like still pay attention to what was around me. And then once I had that housing, it kind of took me out of the moment and it wasn't as fun for me anymore. So I was like, okay, I need to find a different way to go about it. And then, so Brandon Jennings, who started the Nikonos project, I think he kind of like had popped up just on my radar because he's from Southern California. He lives in Utah now, but he was in San Clemente. And so I don't even know, I found the Nikonos project, was like, oh, this is just a cool project in general, because he basically sold all his digital equipment and was just loaning out these cameras mostly to like, started out with like really kind of young kids, like who their film programs in their schools had been shut down and they were interested in learning analog photography. And he would basically, you got on the list, and he would, when he had a camera available, just send it to you for free. Like he was just covering this because he thought it was a cool idea. And so I had like, he didn't have any cameras at that point. They were all over. So I was like, okay, I'll get on the wait. I think I did end up going on the wait list, but I'm impatient in nature. So I basically went on, I think eBay or something, and found, a Nikonos camera. And the first one that I had was a 4. No, it wasn't a 4 because 4s are bad. That's a good thing to know about Nikonos cameras. They switched it to like the one with the meter and all of the electronics, and they didn't do a very good job. So I got a 5V, and I think I had that one. And it was perfect because those ones you can put them on automatic, but it has a meter. You can do full manual control, and it's about the size of a brick. Like it's just nice. Like I had it on a shoelace. You can swim like in waves. You can go, I don't know, free dive or snorkel with it, and it feels like it's not there when you don't need it. So like automatically I was like, okay, this is like getting back to like kind of what I was having more fun in the water. I then, drowned probably 4 of those because they do have all the electronics. And they're old. I mean, they're the 5s, I think they started making those in the 90s. And they continued until the early 2000s. But you have a camera basically that has like 2 O-rings that you can get to and make sure that they're maintained. And but they have all these internal ones, and you have to send them out and get them serviced. And I would never do that. So I drowned a bunch of those. And then I kind of started to moving backwards.
1 second here. Someone's asking, which
Oh,
film do you use with the Nikonos?
yeah. So I think I had someone ask me that because I posted a picture with Ektachrome and the slide film, and they're like, why are you using slide film when they kind of, the exposure is so much more complicated than color negative. So I shoot probably 90% of the time Portra, if I'm like Portra 160. Color negative film has obviously an amazing latitude. It's just a cool film especially to shoot anything with water, I think, because for me it's like I really like the tones you can get, especially with interesting lighting. I shot Ektar. I only shoot Ektar above water. The reason for that is because you get like such crazy kind of colors with Ektar, if you shoot it underwater, I almost feel like it looks like you had a really weird filter that you were using. Like the
Yeah.
blues and the greens are so intense, but not really true to life. So I shoot Ektar above above the surface of the water, Portra mostly kind of anywhere in there. And then if I'm feeling really rich, then I will get some Ektachrome. The other thing is, like we were talking about, like the camera with a meter versus no meter. The one that I shoot right now doesn't have a meter, and I kind of know conditions pretty well at this point. But for color negative, I can get it in that ballpark. For slide film, it's super challenging just because the lighting conditions change so much.
Yeah.
Um, so I've shot Ektachrome a few times underwater, probably like 10 times, and have been like really happy with maybe like 2-3 photos out of a roll, which, hey, I've been super happy with those ones, but it's like for how much that film costs, it's like you can't really, I'm like, I'm not going to shoot that all the time.
No, exactly. Well, how much it costs and then how much it costs to process it too.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I
Do you process all of your own film?
No.
No.
So I did for a little bit process my own black and white because I'm like, this is fun and then
Yeah.
it's cheap. But then I decided I fucking hate scanning like so much. It's the worst. And the lab I use here in Toronto, they're great. They're downtown camera. If you're in Toronto or like, the Ontario area. Um,
Yeah.
they only charge, I think it's like $2 or $3 extra to do scanning. And I'm
Oh,
like, my time's definitely worth $3. So, I'll let someone else deal with this because
yeah.
fuck scanning. Yeah. And then like I haven't tried color yet. I think I might just for shits and giggles one day try processing color. But I know lots of people that do it and they love it and they love scanning and I'm like, good for you.
Do people really like scanning?
There's some people that really get it because it's like an art, I guess, in its
All
own.
right.
But some people get like really into it, and I'm like, I just like shooting the camera, and that's sort of like my favorite part.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, and you're saying you started going backwards with the your Nikonos cameras there before I
Yeah.
ask one question. So
Yeah. Yeah, basically I shoot mostly a 3 now, which is no meter. It's fully mechanical. I have not flooded, knock on so much wood, the one that I have, and I've had it for a few years. But what's nice is that if you do flood it in salt water, because the salt water is kind of like what just messes everything up because it just corrodes everything. So apparently if you do flood it, you just dunk the whole thing in fresh water, let it soak, and then dry it out, and it should be fine because it is fully mechanical. I don't know. Well, hopefully I'll never have to do that. um, but the 3, I think they started making it in the late 70s and they made it until maybe the early 90s, but it's just like a workhorse. Like it's tiny. It's like, I don't have any of my cameras here because I'm not at my house, but
that's fine.
it's like this big, and it like kind of does everything that you want it to. Something weird that people probably don't know about Nikonos cameras, and you figure that out really fast, is it's a scale focus camera, which is the weirdest thing ever. So you basically, like, you'll see anyone who's shooting them, you like spend most of the time like doing this because you basically have to set your aperture with a little knob and then you set your focus distance. And it's a weird thing to get used to. Also, for some of the lenses, they it's a dive camera, so they're kind of all set up to be shot all underwater, or that's originally what they were made for, and so it's just kind of weird to like try and figure out distances. Once you get it, it's okay. I mean, well, saying that, I miss like focus on things all the time, especially with surfing is challenging. Shooting anyone's like moving target, what I now kind of do because I've gotten lazy, is basically, okay, I'm like, all right, 20 to 30 feet or like 15 to 20 feet in focus. I'm just going to sit here and just let them come to me. uh, yeah, but It's the weirdest little camera ever. But I don't know. I've shot a bunch of other things. I had what was it? Like had like an SLR in a housing for a little bit, and it's just too much. Like it's just like it is now. And I mean I feel like in the beginning, even so, like the Nikonos was so intuitive to me. Like it's super simple, like you have full control, but it makes sense where everything is on the camera, and it's just so small and compact. So like anytime you throw a housing in there, I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like you see those people, like you were saying with Polaroids, there's these guys, I think their names like Ian and Eric Rainyard. They housed a large format. I
What?
mean, just and it was a Polaroid. So they like it, or it was like some. I'm trying to remember what camera it was exactly. But basically, like this box that looked like, I don't know, that it was probably just gigantic, and they would like have to load obviously everything. They swim down, they're shooting the most beautiful images underwater, but just doing this all the time with a thing that probably, I don't know, weighed like 150 pounds. They got some like really amazing photo, like black and white with sting. I think they're in the Bahamas and or somewhere in the Caribbean, and they have like stingrays and then models. And I mean, they're just, I'll send those to you, Merlin. They're like some of my favorite
That sounds
images ever.
accessible.
But
I,
people
I did.
get crazy.
I saw that someone had made an underwater housing for an SX70 Polaroid in like the 70s or 80s or something, where you could take like an SX70 underwater, but it was like you're talking about, it had these weird knobs and stuff so that you could like do everything. And I like JP's comment here. He was like, Canada should have free Devon scan as part of universal health care. I agree. That would be
I would
nice.
move to Canada if that was.
Yeah, that's
That's
wild though. Well, so what? All right, I just totally brain farted on that. So you got into the Nikonos cameras basically because you just hated the big bulky
Yep.
beastie things. That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, there's time and a space for those things, like, but it wasn't fun for me. Also, like I've like whacked myself in the face with just the Nikonos cameras, and that hurts enough. So hitting myself in the head with like an 18-pound housing, I'd probably drown, be unconscious in the water somewhere.
That sounds less than ideal. So,
Yeah. What was the first film camera that you started off with?
the first. Okay, so I would have to say it would probably be my mom's AE1. My dad gave her a Canon AE1 for an anniversary 2 years before I was born. And that was the camera that like all of my childhood memories were shot on. I still
Awesome.
have the camera today. It still works great. It's never been CLA. It has a battery from like 2000 in it, and it still shoots perfect. I love that camera. But I didn't really get into film shooting until like the last 3.5 years. I shot mostly digital, like
Yeah.
street photography and stuff like that. And then I took a really long pause from photography and focused on being a grown up and having a career and shit like that. And then realized that was a mistake. And when I moved to Toronto, I was having a lot of trouble adjusting to the city because it's a strange city, and so I got back into photography and was doing a lot of like street photography and wandering around to try and connect with the city.
Yeah.
And then I kind of like gear at that time was so cheap on Kijiji, which is like our Craigslist.
Okay.
And so I got suckered into this. Like I started looking at like this gear, and I was just like, I saw an interview that Jason Lee had done on Polaroids, and then that like pulled me into like the Polaroid world, and I was shooting
Yeah.
with Polaroid, and I was like, holy shit, Polaroid is expensive. Uh,
It's crazy.
it is crazy expensive. That's my friend Julianne said that that's how we met. I met her at a zine thing, and I took a Polaroid of her and gave it to her. Uh,
Nice.
it's kind of like one of my favorite things to do with Polaroids now is I just take portraits of people and give it to them, and then
I have one from you.
yeah, Oftentimes I don't even see them. I just because it takes so long for them to develop. I'm just like,
Yeah.
here you go, have a Polaroid. I do sign it so that they know it's me. But when I was like, Polaroids are so expensive, I started shooting 35 millimeter.
Yeah.
And then that was like a wicked rabbit hole where I went like 35 millimeter. And oh, that's right. Sorry. Julianne's correcting me. That is how we met. I took a picture of one of her stickers because I used to love taking pictures of street like
Ah,
graffiti and stickers and stuff in
yeah.
Kensington Market. And she tracked me down through that. That's right.
That is so funny.
And then I bought a lot of her art. That's her art is all up on my wall over here.
Cool.
She's a fantastic artist and t-shirt maker. So if you want to, it's Christmas time. If you want to buy some
Yeah.
Polaroid for
I'll
people,
look it up.
follow Foot to Face.
That's
Uh,
a good handle too. I like it.
yeah, yeah. So support locals, support individuals, fuck corporations.
Yeah.
But yeah, photography has been like a really interesting thing for me, like getting into all the different things, but mostly the community. Like, I have been really blown away by all of the people I've met in the film photography community and just
Yeah.
how kind and welcoming everyone has been. Like, the community I've spent the most time in has been like the Polaroid community.
Hmm.
But then the Film Paideia, like going there and getting the chance to meet you and like talk with Phil and Grant, man, that
I
was
know that.
he's just one of the neatest people that I've had a chance. Like it was just so cool to chill with Grant and Take and like everyone.
Yeah.
That was a really amazing adventure there. And then just you know even like this us talking right now has been an interesting thing because I would have never imagined doing like this sort of TV show kind of thing. And now it's like 15 episodes in, and people keep tuning in, and people keep agreeing to do it, and it kind of blew my mind like how many rad photographers I know in the world just from like going to a couple events and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good. Yeah. I have, like you said, you make kind of friends in these super cool like circles within circles in the photo community. And I mean, yeah, some of the people that I met like right at the beginning, I'm still really good friends with, which is so cool.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, just to Instagram has really blown my mind. Because I think as far as like social media tools go, it's maybe like the purest one when you figure out how to use it
Yeah.
in like a good way.
Hmm.
Um, it has like the least possibility for toxicity when you start using it because it's like it's ultimately you curate what you want to see in
Yeah.
it. And once I figured out how to curate like the right thing for me, it's just become this super power, positive force for me to like meet great people and like do these cool collaborations and stuff. And if it wasn't for Instagram, I would never have had a chance to meet you in San Clemente, and then we wouldn't be doing this either. So um, it's cool to have this tool in the community so that like we can maintain that connection and share each other's work and appreciate each other's work.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, I know people criticize it all the time, and obviously there's going to be dark parts to whatever, but yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty amazing connector of, I mean, for people, but also it's like so much artwork and creativity that I would never stumble across any other way. Um, so yeah, but I agree with like the curating thing, and yeah, I don't know, I kind of go through and it's like what what, like how is this thing popped up, how if it's not like something that's gonna make me think or make me
Yes.
happy or like further something good in some way, why does that need to be there? So I think that's, yeah, kind of important to think about it that way. It's like if something is popping up all the time and it's not making you feel good, that it's your prerogative. You can make a
Well,
decision not to have that that there.
Exactly. Like that's the thing. I've had a bunch of people be like, "Oh, why do you spend so much time on that? Like it's so awful. Like I've had bad experiences." And it's like, "Okay, well, but you made that happen.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kind of your own fault." And I mean,
Yeah.
I've had a really long relationship with Instagram. Like I've been on it since like I think 8 months after it started. And it's interesting. If you look back on my feed, because I have like
All of that.
6,000 photos in it. I tried to curate it once and I was just like, fuck this, it's too much. But it'd be like an archaeological dig if you spend the time to scroll through. And I
Yeah.
find it. It's like almost 5 minutes of constant scrolling to get to the bottom of my feed. But it's kind of like you could see like, where I started with Instagram and like all the
Yeah.
photography stuff. And it's been a fun adventure like getting into the photography stuff, but it's been a bummer not being able to travel because like through Instagram and through like the photography thing, like most of my best friends don't
Yeah.
live in Toronto. They live all over the country, and
Yeah.
I can't go see them now and I can't spend time with them, which is kind of a bummer. So um the pandemic sort of made me realize how important local community is,
Hmm.
and how as awesome as it is to have like a broad community, it's probably not a bad idea to cultivate a good local community as well too.
What is it like in Toronto, like the your kind of hub of photographer or photography?
So I've been pretty lucky to have met a few great photographers I would call like good friends.
Yeah.
Have all sort of had like it all by accident, kind of like, one guy, David, I was parking my car, another photographer friend who lives in Saskatchewan, I met her at the Jason Lee workshop that I went to in Boston a couple years ago, which is where like all of this started. If I hadn't have gone to that Jason Lee workshop, I would have never learned about like the Polaroid convention I started going to, and then that would have never sparked my like desire to travel for
Yeah.
photography. But my friend Barb was visiting, and we were going for some food, and I saw this dude with just this like chonky, big, I think it was like a massive Mamiya SLR medium format. And I was like, "Hey man, can I take your photo?" Like, and he's like, "Only if I could take your photo." And so like, and then my friend Barb had a TLR with her, so it's like we were all like taking each other's photos, and we all stayed in touch. And I spent a lot of time this summer doing distance photoed walks with him, and
Yeah.
there is a good community here. And I'm part of like a thing called Northern Film Collective, which my friend Becca started. She's a fantastic photographer too. Um, Shoots primarily film with an old Canon T90, which is a cool badass camera. Um, but I've been helping her with the collective that she started, and she's working on a book right now that hoping to release next month, of all Canadian content from Canadian photographers from across the country. I think we had like over 60 people send submissions in for that. So that was pretty cool, to be part of that and work on that. And then I've also been doing some like workshops and stuff on Polaroid through one of the galleries here, which has been a lot of fun. Like it's sort of like an intro to Polaroid where
Yeah.
talk about like the history of like how instant photography happened, and like go through like a bit of the history of Polaroid itself. Um, and then we did a photo walk as well, which was a lot of fun. Polaroid helped a little bit. They sent me a couple cameras for people to use and some swag, and it was cool to get people hooked on Polaroid. And like one of the guys here, Nas, he was just complaining about how I've created a monster that's chewing through his wallet. Because
That's just what film is.
it is what film is. Like someone asked me once how much I've spent on film photography, like just in general, like cameras, film developing, and I started crunching it a little bit, and then I was like, I don't really want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what, yeah, people always ask me like, is that like I have a whole other job, but they like ask me like, is this your main job? And I'm like, no, it barely pays for itself, maybe on a good.
Well, so I'm curious about that on your feelings of it. So it's like for me, I I don't charge for anything really. Like for the workshops, they paid me just because like that's the framework of like what they do. But I was
Yeah,
like, I've done it for free. Um, I do it like mainly for me is just like a I guess passion project and like
yeah,
soul redemption kind of thing. Because like I work in tech and like I do okay with
yeah,
that. And I've thought about like trying to monetize it a bit, but then I get sort of like scared of the idea that like if I start doing that, will it make it not fun, and will I start to resent it at all?
yeah.
And I'm curious, like, do you ever feel similar things, like because you have like a separate career in this?
100%. Yeah. And I've like toyed with the idea of like, okay, do I really want to like put the work in and like try and make this my main earner? I really like my other job too, so that's a good thing. But yeah, I mean, that is totally my fear as well. Is like if I bring all of this pressure and stress into it, then am I not going to enjoy it anymore? I mean that like even like I mean it pays for itself basically through like the prints that I sell, but I don't have like a store on my website because that idea of having that and like people ordering things without like me knowing what the specifications and all of that kind of stuff just makes me so stressed. So I make them like directly email me and then we chat about like what they want and the sizes and everything. And then like, okay, I will order it from the lab that I like to do it. And then I'm going to get it shipped to me because I want to do quality control and make sure it's good. Then I will send it to you. So yeah. Which to most people probably they're like, that sounds way more stressful than like just having a button on your website. But to me, I don't know that it is like I like being involved in as much of the process as I can, and it's cool to me because like I do like trying. I know Jonathan Cantless always says like you like don't let your like photos just be pixels like or like scans, like make sure you print everything. And so I try and like I've been trying to print stuff more. um but it's nice for things that I haven't printed. If someone does want that one, then I get to see it even for a few minutes and on paper, before sending it off, in the world. But yeah, I totally feel the like stress management. Don't want to bring all of that into the art thing. I know. See one question from Paul. Do I home develop? I do not. I have done some black and white developing in the past. Same kind of thing with you, Merlin. Like black and white is nice because it's really hard to mess it up. I
Yeah.
have never dabbled in color. I mean, first of all, I live in a tiny apartment in San Francisco right now, and I've always lived in like these places where it's like I don't know if they would appreciate me like turning my apartment or bath or whatever into a full dark room. But yeah, I would love to at some point in the future when I have the space and the time to do that. But it seems like a lot to take on right now. Okay, so and then someone, do I do darken printing? I have again for black and white. That's thanks to Brandon, because at the Nikonos project, because he turned his whole garage into the most amazing dark room. So some with him. What lab do I use? So I still when I was in San Diego, started working with North Coast Photo in Carlsbad. And I still send things to them because I think they do a really amazing job. And also, if anyone knows, I like to push my film a lot. And a lot of labs either don't do that or the turnaround time is crazy. So I'm like, I know that they do a good job. I like the work that they do. And so I basically now it's like I get a few rolls together, mail it down, and then they hang on to it for like a month or so at a time and then mail everything back up to me. Or if I go down there, I pick it up. But yeah, they're they're a good lab. I think people send stuff to them from all over, so it's pretty cool.
I have to throw an obligatory plug to my homie Brian there, but now that you're in San Francisco, you should maybe try Underdog one time.
It's hard though, Merlin. It's like I'm definitely like someone who gets like I'm like the person who goes to the restaurant and they order one thing once and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to that. I'm gonna order it for the rest of my life because I know it's good and I don't want to be disappointed.
Yeah, creature of habit. I'm totally like that too. It's like once I pick one, even if it like doesn't make sense and it's like there's a way simpler option, I'll be like,
Yeah,
no, this one, because
this
this,
one is yeah.
yeah, there's no other option, just this one.
Yeah.
Uh,
Dale said, "Is there a reason you use the specific Nikonos that you use?" I have the Nikonos 5 and I love it. So we talked about this a little bit, but basically, I think I had like 3 or 4 5s and I drowned them all. Mostly because okay, so what like they're dive cameras, so they are really not supposed to be pummeled with in like shore break or big waves or anything. It like kind of gets a lot of sand up in all of the O-rings and stuff. um and yeah, so that's the main reason. Other than that, they're all good cameras. I would say if you're looking at a Nikonos camera, do stay away from the 4 because I don't know anyone who's had one of those for more than like maybe a month or two. I think the way that they kind of designed the body, I think the O-rings themselves are square, which is so weird. Like when you take O-rings out, it should be an O. And so it's easy when you're closing everything up for them to kind of get, it's not all the way sealed and it might look like it is. Let's see. Did you ever go George's camera in SD? Um, Let me see. I've got my first one. And yeah, North Coast is pricey. That is true. Again, film is an expensive thing. George's. I'm trying to think. There was if this. Let's see. I wonder if George's used to be in La Jolla. There was a place across the street from my apartment in La Jolla that was pretty much all underwater. But no, that was just cameras. I don't think I've ever been to George's. Might be down.
you'll have to take a trip to Georgia sometime
I
then.
know.
I'm
Yeah.
curious, have you ever tried shooting Cinestill underwater?
Okay, so I have, and I actually talked to them at the Paideia about this because it's such a beautiful film,
Yeah,
but every time I have shot it in a Nikonos camera, and there are people that somehow have figured it out, I get static.
you get
Which,
static.
mm-hmm. And I talked to them because I like talked to other people about it, and I was like, why do you think this is happening? Like what? Because so I think what it is what we kind of figured out is obviously it's like you have this little camera that's like this like pressurized thing.
Yeah,
um, and it might be either like they think it might be like the humidity change like from when you take it out. It could also be like I don't know because they were saying that also like the speed of the rewind, but I was like I'm doing that by myself so it's not going that fast. Or it could be like also maybe temperature just because it's like going from really hot to really cold. But yeah, I have like a couple photos on Cinestill. I believe the 800, the tungsten one, I think is that one. That are beautiful, and the tone. I mean, it's amazing. It's a beautiful film, but I haven't figured it out to get it like consistently, not have like crazy static. Which I know they have all these films now that they already have static in them, and it looks really cool. But to me, I'm like, I wouldn't. That's not what I want. So.
yeah. Lomography makes some interesting films that I've been playing with a bit more. Where I kind of avoided it because I was just like, I don't want my pictures to be fucked up. I want to just like, have like nice pictures. So like, why do people want these films that are like pre-fucked up? Um,
I like
but
some of them.
I've kind of changed my opinion a little bit on that. And like one of the ones that I've really been loving lately is the Lomography Metropolis.
Hmm.
It's a cool film, and I did a giveaway recently with Lomography. They sent me up a couple of their simple use cameras, which are like a reusable disposable.
Yeah.
They sent 3 up to me, and I did a photo walk with like a person. They could bring a guest, and we just walked around Toronto and shot these cameras, and it was a lot of fun, and I've been really digging these like different film stocks. Yeah, I don't know, like that's the one thing that I really love about shooting film is just all of the different film stocks that are out
Yeah,
there to play with, and then playing with expired films, like the
yeah.
weird janky results you get from that kind of stuff. Like, um, what would be your favorite like black and white and color stuff?
Um, I think Ilford Delta for black and white. I mean, that's like I have. It just always has really worked for me, and I like it. You can't really go wrong. It's hard to mess it up.
Yeah.
Um, I would say that for black and white, and then color is hard. I mean, for what I like reach for the most, I shoot Portra 160 and I push it a stop for like, and the pushing a stop started because I was usually shooting in low light. Um, and then I kind of just realized that I liked like the little bit more, kind of more visible grain structure and then again, Ectochrome, if I'm gonna, get pretend I am really rich, then Ectochrome is good. But I mean, like shooting Ectochrome underwater when it works is there is nothing like it. Like the blues that you can get, especially it's kind of one of those things where it's like a unicorn stock with if you can use it in like unicorn conditions, like um, under underwater with clear visibility, like you can see for a really long time, or if you can see a good distance, like on that film, is just crazy. Like you can get like in San Diego water that looks like you're maybe in Hawaii or like in. But yeah, so I think probably Portra though. If I'm a Portra loyalist. I'm Portra
I,
snob probably.
I'd say I'm a portrait whore. I shoot so much portrait. That's like my main thing. But I do have to say the Lomography 400 has really swayed me a little
Mm-hmm.
because I've been shooting
Oh,
that back to back between the Portra and the Lomo 400, and
yeah.
it's hard to tell the difference between them sometimes.
Maybe I'm
But
gonna have to try it.
my wallet is so much happier with the Lomography because I think like with the discount I get from Downtown Camera, a roll of 36 Lomo 400 is like $10, and a roll of Kodak Portra 400 is like 15, $16. So it's a good savings. Someone says we both have
Yeah.
similar rooms. That's kind of fun.
But this isn't even, I'm like in someone else's house in Jack's sister's old room. But it is funny. Yeah, we have a nice gallery wall
Yeah,
behind us.
you gotta have the art. And
I know. Yeah,
yeah,
your art. I don't know. I want like close ups of all of the prints and stuff you have. Those look really cool.
I'll
Um,
send you pictures of them. They're a lot of fun. This
yeah,
one here is really cool. It's a poster for Policon for last year. That was a lot of fun.
cool.
Yeah, I mean, if the
Nice.
world ever opens up again and we're allowed to travel, you should definitely come out for a Policon. They're a lot of fun. It's not just for Polaroid
Yeah,
people, it's
I love that.
for everybody. They're a good time. I like JP here. Do they make an underwater housing for the 6-7? I don't know,
They
man.
do.
I don't think you'd sink.
Yeah, they do. I have seen a couple of them. I've always like kind of been like maybe someday, just because it would be pretty cool. There's like a few shots that I have in my mind that I'm like, God, if I could get that on medium format, like specifically kind of with the Pentax 67 on the 105 lens, that would be amazing. But it's like, God, yeah, it probably weighs like 50 pounds. And it's, yeah, you like, they do the way that they're designed because they have a lot of air in them, which is what makes them so gigantic. Usually they are somewhat either neutrally buoyant or they are, a little bit buoyant, but who knows with those things, it could just sink like a rock. Nikonos do sink 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess they wouldn't be floating thing because it's like metal, right?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's metal all, I mean, the older ones are all metal. Have you seen like the original one that they made, the Calypso?
No.
Those are super cool. So that one was, it was designed by Jacques Cousteau.
Oh, wow.
Uh, and they have like serial numbers. Like there's not very many of them. I think there might be like 1,000 of them or something like that. And then Nikon basically bought the rights to it and made the rest of them. But yeah, it's, I mean, they're all cool little cameras, but yeah, they sink like rocks.
So is that like a unicorn camera for you to try and find a Calypso one day?
Yeah, Brandon has one. I've seen his. I mean, yeah, they're just, they don't look super different than the early edition Nikonos cameras. But it would just be kind of cool to have them. And what's funny is, so the 1, 2, 3, they all, this fastest shutter speed is 1/500th, and then once you get to the ones that have the meters and stuff, then you have 1/1000th, and the Calypso I believe has 1/1000th. So they kind of just
Oh,
did away with that, which underwater you're kind of okay with, unless you're shooting something super fast. But with surfing, it's kind of nice to have a 1/1000th sometimes.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Paul's asking. I think we've answered this a couple times, Paul, but she said Portra 160
Hmm.
and Ilford Delta. And
Yeah.
I would say my favorite black and white, if you ever get a chance to play with it sometime, is Eastman Double X.
Oh, I have never. Okay. It'll
It's
go.
it's a cinema film, and Cine
Yeah.
still makes a version of it. It's called
Okay.
like Black and White Double X. And Matt was my guest last week from Kodak.
Hmm.
I was bugging him like, why does it look so good? And so he found a potential answer for me, and it's kind of like a cross between Tri-X and T-Max.
Interesting.
So it's like super, like almost no grain that you see in
Yeah.
it, like crystal clear black and white, so
Yeah.
gorgeous. The contrast to it is so beautiful. Like some of my favorite black and white shots I've shot have been with the double X.
Yeah.
The Ferrania P80, if you ever get a chance to play with that, that's a really cool black and white film too. The 80 ISO makes it kind of challenging sometimes. The double
That's
X is 250.
the chine.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. On that, when it was, I think it was in August, we had that like kind of apocalypse day in the city when everything was orange. And I like, I had Jack asked me, he's like, "Do you want to go and like shoot in the water?" And I was like, I basically realized I was like outside. I was like, "There's no way that I can. Like, I don't ever shoot high speed film at all, so I don't have any of it ever." And I mean, it like the kind of layer that was in the sky was so thick that I think I was like shooting. I just saw some photos on like a Pentax K1000 that I have, and I was shooting 160, pushed maybe 2 stops, and was still shooting, like trying to shoot 1/8 handheld.
oh
And
shit.
with a 50 millimeter 1.2, like it was ridiculous. I was like, there's no way I can shoot anything in the water. Like,
Yeah.
I don't. That lens only stops down to 4, and I was like, no, I'm gonna have to like do bulb mode, like trying to stay.
Yeah, trying to stay still in the water, I don't imagine is an easy thing.
Wouldn't have gone well. Ryan, favorite lens. Uh, when I'm shooting topside, I shoot mostly the 80 millimeter, just because kind of everywhere I've lived, I basically shoot at beach breaks, and so it's really hard to be in the exact spot that you need to be, and so it's nicer to have a little bit of a longer lens. And then underwater, there's a 15 millimeter lens, which is it's like that lens is incomparable. Like now people adapt that lens onto to be able to be used on a digital camera, like in a housing, which is crazy to me. Like they spend, this lens maybe I think you can get it for like $250 to $300, like if you find a good deal, and they're spending thousands of dollars to adapt this lens.
That's
But the
insane.
I mean, it's an amazing lens.
You have to say we're at the last like 30 seconds
Yeah.
of the live. So I just want to say thank you so much, Megan,
Thank
for
you,
spending
Lynn.
time with me, and thank you everyone for tuning in. I really appreciate it. It's great that everyone's into this stuff. Um, Next week, I have my friend Michaela from Calgary on. She does like some really cool visual stuff with film and everything. And thank you again so much for your time, Megan. It was great.
Thank you, Merlin, and thank you everyone for the questions. Talk to you
All right.
soon.
See you guys. Love you all.
Bye.
Okay. Have a great night.
You too.
Megan is the bomb. All right. Thanks, guys.